Dumb, cool,
weird
podcast. Welcome to the Dumb, Cool, Weird podcast. We just watched Jack Frost, and we're not talking the Michael Keaton movie.
We're talking the very low-budget film.
Yes, this is a low-budget horror movie from 1997, the year before
Jack Frost.
So this is a Jack Frost horror movie with a killer snowman.
The acting was terrible, but fun.
But it was fun, yeah. And the only person you recognize in the movie is Nadia from American Pie.
Yep, that was
Elizabeth Shannon.
That was what she was doing before she went to American Pie.
Yep, definitely so. But yes, this movie was very low budget, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, simply put it, serial killer gets put on a transit to be executed. The corrections vehicle he's in crashes with a chemical company truck that's unguarded and carrying a very dangerous chemical compound that hasn't been tested on anything.
Yep.
Gets all over killer. Killer dies in the snow. Snow becomes snowman. Snowman starts killing. And the FBI and a science nerd go through the town. They decide, and the local sheriff who arrested Jack Frost. Funny thing is, the serial killer's name is actually Jack Frost. He's still having nightmares about this whole shit.
Yeah, he had one encounter with him, and then he has fucking like PTSD from it.
Yeah, he didn't even do anything.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you know what? He was a small town sheriff in Colorado, so I mean, that's the most crime he's ever dealt with was maybe the old man like slipping and falling.
Yeah, basically the movie, after everything's said and done, the movie starts off with there's a murder in the town,
and it's an old man.
It's an old man, but you don't really know it's a murder. The old man just looks fucking creepy. He's like just
kind of mangled up, like he froze to death outside because he fell asleep.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. And I will say the prosthetic body they used for that was like really bad looking, but it was funny. But it was pretty funny. This movie is definitely really fucking funny.
It had so much cheese.
It's so self-aware because when they're looking at the old man's rocking in the chair, and you're like, oh, it's kind of creepy. And then the sheriff goes, hey, stop doing that.
Hey, so the other deputy takes his foot off the chair. He's like, hey, take your foot off the chair. Yeah. Oh, sorry, boss. No, what I thought was funny is when Jack Frost breaks the fourth wall during his transformation. He's like, oh, this is going to hurt. Yeah. Chemical sprays all over him, melts his body.
Yep, this movie is definitely self-aware.
Very self-aware.
Yep, and basically what ends up happening, though, is he goes on a killing spree, and, at first, there's a snowman outside the sheriff's house, and the mom's like, why don't you go out there and put Oh, by the way, before...
Kid's definitely on the spectrum. Yeah, kid is, like, fucking out there.
Before we even get to that, though, I want to talk about the fact that the kid was making... made his dad this...
granola goo
thing.
Oreo marshmallow thing.
And it was disgusting. But, like, keep in mind, this is gonna be relevant later in the movie. So yeah. We'll save that towards the end of the movie. But basically...
Kid's baking the whole day, by the way.
Yeah. So basically, outside... He's putting the snowman together that magically appeared in the yard, and basically the neighbor kids come by.
Oh, let's not forget the fact that when this kid is decorating a snowman, he has to put on his snowman puppet to remember how a snowman's supposed to look.
Yeah, fucking dumbass kid. And he's putting the decorations on the snowman, and I guess the fucking bully comes over, who's like literally like 5 years older than this kid.
Yeah, he's probably like 15, 16 years old.
Yeah, bullying a fucking like kid on the spectrum.
Like a 6-year-old spectrum child.
Yeah, and basically like they're like, oh, move the fuck out of the way, or we're gonna like beat your ass.
We're gonna beat your ass. And then he's like, all right. He just turns around. He's like, asshole. He's like, nobody talks about me about nothing behind my back.
Yeah, you say it straight to my face. You're gonna say something behind my back. You better say it. And
Snowman pushes him to the ground because the kids were trying to go down the hill, and the toboggan from another kid slices off his head. It's like, First off, I don't think that's how physics work.
Yeah, but it turns out it was it was a, you know,
Jack Frost.
it was Nadia's little brother that got fucking killed. So the dad comes over there and starts making threats. Which, by the way, the acting's so bad in this movie. It's clearly obvious they're not even like really that into like him dying anyway. They're not like really that choked up about it.
Dude, they went to the Nicolas Cage school of overacting.
Yeah, pretty much. And basically, what ends up happening though is they leave, and then they go back into like basically the family goes home, and the dad is like, "Oh, well, I don't know how I feel about all this," and then the mom's like all fucked up on Quaaludes, like, "Oh, maybe I should
turn
light
on the
tree."
lights on the tree. How could you want festivities after our son died?
Yep. And then the daughter comes downstairs and she's trying to leave, and he's like, "Where are you going at this hour? You don't even care about your brother." She's like, "I love my brother," and he starts screaming at her.
Yeah, and he's like dressed up like a lady of the night, and she's like just a triple, quadruple layered up.
Yep. And then she's like, "I'm leaving," and then she leaves, and
Mom is still pleasantly on Quaaludes.
yeah. And then Dad goes outside to chop wood, but he's not really chopping wood. He's like having a mental breakdown.
And he's gonna smoke his pipe, and then, Jack Frost, the snowman, starts talking to him.
Yep. He's like, "Can I get a smoke?" And and then basically, like, he's even the snowman's kind of making fun of him. He's like, "Yeah, get that axe. Oh, there you go. Come on, get it."
And then what happened was the snowman, Jack Frost, helped this elderly gentleman deep throat a axe handle.
Yep, and then Jack Frost proceeded to go in the house and basically fuck with the lady. Yeah, and he fucking like dresses her up in ornaments.
Yeah, he chokes. He ties the lights around her neck like a wire. Stuffs her mouth with an ornament, and then smashes her face into the ornaments.
Yep.
It was brutal.
Yeah, and then he puts the star on top, which was kind of funny because she said earlier in the movie that she wanted to be a star on the Christmas tree.
Yep.
And so basically he hears a guy outside, and then he gets all like excited and grabs a scarf, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna get him next," and then the guy runs away. And then the cops show up, and they're like, "Oh, how are we gonna tell her that her entire fucking family is dead?
She's only 18. Like, they really emphasized on the 18 part at that moment for some reason.
Yep. And basically what ends up happening, though, is the sheriff sends everybody out to go do their things. One of the deputies shows up to the house to get the wife, and the wife gets freaked out. We have like a jump scare.
Oh, well, let's not forget the other deputy who had to go to the fat guy's house, getting stopped by the snowman.
Holding a stop sign.
Gets out, he's about to shovel him up.
Yep.
Gets run over by his own car because the snowman starts driving it.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Fucking wild.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. And you think the snowman drives over to the house, but really it's just the other deputy trying to help her. She gets them out of there, and then here comes the fucking 18-year-old daughter
and her boyfriend, who's clearly aloof about sex.
Yeah, and she's like, "Let's go in the house."
And I love though how he's like, "But that's the sheriff's house. Maybe we shouldn't have sex here."
Yeah, but they do it anyway. And the funny thing is, she goes in and blow dries her hair, and she's like, "You need to get the fire and all that going,
and the bath going."
Yeah, and so he's like
trying to get things done.
Yep, and then all of a sudden, Jack shows up, and Jack doesn't really kill him at first. He kind of makes fun of him a little bit, and he's like sitting there trying to stab Jack with this fucking ice pick, and it just doesn't work out.
And then he shoots him with icicles.
Yep, right through the head.
And shoulder first, then the head, and then we'll go to the next part that doesn't make sense. After she's done blow drying her hair, she gets into a bath.
Yep, and wets her hair. And she's like, "Thanks for the bath. Thanks for drawing the bath." And for some fucking reason, the guy's dead, but then he nods.
His head's nodding, the last remnants of his brain are still moving his body.
Yep. And then she lays in the bathtub, and she's like, then she's like, "Oh, it's really cold." And then
no cold water. And I love how the carrot floats up to the top.
Yep.
Jack Frost's carrot.
Yeah, he gets an erection, and then he proceeds to fuck her.
and smash her head against the wall.
Yep.
Yeah, because the carrot wasn't on his face, and then you see the carrot fall out of her after she dies. It's like, I hope it was as good for you as it was for me.
And he puts his carrot back on and gets out a pipe and starts smoking it. And then he's like looking in the mirror, all proud of himself. He's like, yeah.
And then he's like, I should probably send her flowers.
Yep. And so basically after this, we kind of cut to the part of the movie where the sheriff finally finds out that Jack Frost isn't dead.
Yeah, because the FBI guy and the scientist start realizing they can't contain this anymore.
Yep, and they realize backup is not on the way. In fact, and so they go outside because they hear a noise, and the FBI agent reaches in the car and gets his snowman gun.
Yeah, they're like a really elaborate looking gun. It's like, dude, it's like, this is a snowman gun.
Yep, and then when they go to the cop car and they're like, oh, it's abandoned, and then then she looks on the ground and goes, oh, that's a scarf.
It's like, yeah, and then Jack Frost comes out of it nowhere. I love when they get into the building. They're like, what is this building made of? Brick, plywood.
Yeah,
just
pretty much.
They find out that they could just kill him with cleaning supplies.
Yep.
Doesn't work.
Doesn't work. They blow up the building. They save the guy from the jail cell that almost died in the jail cell.
They were about to actually blow up the jail with the Home Depot guys still inside.
Yep. So they get him out. They get out of the thing, they blow it up, and then, because he's snow and he can turn into water, and he can turn into water vapor, so he's like pretty much invincible. He just comes back to life, and he's like, oh, look at me, I'm Picasso.
Look, Mom, I'm Picasso. And then they have this grand plan where the whole town uses blow dryers to get him into the basement with the furnace of the town center.
And they stick his ass in the fucking furnace.
And then they think everything's won. Everybody's like going back home, and then the FBI guy and his nerdy science friend that created that chemical are just talking in the basement. He's about to like reminisce about being a fool in 1979
or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he's like, it's moments like this that I look up in the sky and say, "Oh shit," because they realize that he's water vapor now.
Yep, and then basically he turns into the snowman again. And he just takes a big bite out of the guy's face.
And he says, I gave him frostbite.
Yep, and then it cuts to the scientist. The scientist's like, wait. And then he starts asking him all these different questions. And then he's like, well, what is it like being like immortal? And he goes, it's cold as hell. And he like, and then we cut outside where everybody's like celebrating because they think Jack Frost is dead. And then you just see the scientist like just kind of like awkwardly walking out like a robot. Yeah,
the fucking sheriff's looking at him like not even remotely suspicious.
Mm-hmm.
Like just kind of like, hey, are you okay?
And then all of a sudden you just see Jack Frost, like Jack Frost is inside this guy, and he goes, oh, screw it, and he just like
he goes, fuck it, and he just shoots the carrot, deep throats the carrot from his mouth, and
then shaving cream everywhere.
Yeah, like that was definitely like 50 cans of shaving cream.
Yep. And so what ends up happening is the boy, like the son and the sheriff get in the car. They're sitting there, and he doesn't have his keys. And then Jack Frost tries to come through the air vents, and he basically hot wires the car. And then he kicks out the window, and Jack Frost is like laughing at him.
Throws out his son. So the sheriff throws his son out, and then to get away, he throws the bag of oat goo that his son made. It starts burning Jack Frost.
Like half his face melts off.
And then the sheriff's like, son, it's burning him. What was in the oats?
He's like, well, Dad, I don't want you to get mad at me.
No, son, what was in the oats?
Well, Dad, I didn't want you to get too cold, so I put antifreeze in there.
You can't put antifreeze in all his baked goods. No wonder that family was thinking to themselves, like, we shouldn't eat any of this.
Yeah, that's probably why he, if the dad really would have ate that,
he would have died.
Would have fucking died.
Yeah, imagine how pissed Jack Frost would have been if, like, he's like, oh,
he's dead.
He's dead already. Well, okay, can't really fuck with him.
So then what happens is he gets the fat guy, who, by the way, has like a Dukes of Hazzard horn on his fucking car.
Yeah,
and he like hits
in a hardware store.
Yeah, and he hits. By the way, Jack Frost the whole time is just puns and like goofy ass shit.
Yeah.
So this guy rolls up with the truck and hits Jack Frost. He goes, oh, and
I can see your house from here.
yeah. And then it cuts back to them, and they're like, he's like, hey, go to the hardware store and get me antifreeze.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay. And then like basically the other guy goes, hey Jack, have you heard the one about this? And he's like, no, I haven't.
Have you heard the one about the about the difference between snowmen and snow women? No balls. Chases him into the local whorehouse.
Yeah, literally a whorehouse, because he like goes to the doors, and then the woman goes, oh, that might be my husband.
Yeah, and they hear another person getting whipped behind another door, and then you hear somebody and a horse.
Yep. Basically, and then they finally have their little battle upstairs, and he gets impaled, and then he's like dead, and then he goes, how? He's like Jack Frost looks and goes, oh, I wonder what that is, and then the guy goes, it's the cavalry.
Yeah, because the Dukes of Hazzard horns playing, and then he gets dunked into a redneck bathtub full of antifreeze.
Full of antifreeze, and when he's like sitting there dunking him, part of his arm falls off the truck. And he's like sitting there, and he's pretty much beating the shit out of this, obviously, this like blow up doll.
Yeah, this blow up doll snowman thing, a wavy inflatable man.
Yep. And then it cuts to the little boy. The little boy, he goes, "Hey, Dad, look at this!" And then it like wraps around his face and tries to smother him.
And then they dunk it. They baptize him in the antifreeze.
Yep. And then after that, it cuts to them taking the antifreeze. And by the way, it's singing "Silent Night, Holy Night," and it's being sung by Jack Frost. And then they're like literally
putting the remains of the antifreeze into those containers again,
and they're burying it underground. And they're like, oh, it looks like the backup showed up, and they're like
the FBI,
and then like basically they go, what should we tell him? He goes,
they're too late.
They're too late. And basically, we see that Jack Frost is clearly not dead because
he's trapped in the antifreeze.
He's trapped in the antifreeze, and then the movie ends.
Yeah, that was a. Let's talk about the dumb, cool, and weird.
So, what was really dumb about this movie was pretty obvious. I mean, I know it's a campy movie and cheesy, and I like the cheese.
Yeah,
but I think the acting could have been a little bit better, and I think that was really dumb.
Everyone was overacting.
Yeah.
The whole movie.
Which, that could be funny in some cases, but in this case, like, half the time, it was just kind of like, eh.
The FBI guy acted like the douchey FBI guy. The nerd, the scientist nerd, was acting like the super scientific nerd. The kid was acting very much on whatever spectrum he falls into.
Yep.
The kid was definitely not well. Like, needed a doctor and a special school to go to.
Yep, and like I said, the acting for the most part, and we're not talking about the main characters. We're talking about like the side characters. They're just like bad. Like the acting is so bad because they're not being silly. Everybody else is just being like serious, but it just doesn't come across very well. But the cool stuff about this movie is I could tell they put a lot of work into the special effects for this movie. And so I thought the effects with the snowman were pretty cool.
They were pretty funny too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think the weirdest part about this movie though is just kind of like all the little details. Like you've got this experimental chemical, and you're just rolling it with the one sleepy redneck.
Yeah, the sleepy redneck that's either drinking coffee or drinking liquor, probably a little bit of both.
Maybe. And then and you have the most incompetent security team running this.
Yeah, and you know what else was weird? It's the explanation of what the guy was working on. He's like, well, we're trying to figure out a way to make human beings immortal. In case of
a nuclear holocaust, we want to be able to bond the human being with another inorganic inert element.
And then we're just like, bro, shut the fuck up. This is a goddamn fucking like cheesy ass horror movie. Like this is...
You know what though? That is like the perfect horror movie example of like stupid chemicals that they would come up with.
Yeah.
That makes like a supervillain.
Yeah, I mean, at least in Batman 1989, when he falls into the batch of chemicals, I mean, it would drive you insane, but they didn't give us an explanation of why it did it. We just know it happened.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, you fell into a batch of chemicals, and not only that, he got sucked in through the sewer system, so he was dragged through the sewers, probably getting knocked around by the alligators and what other trash Gotham has in there.
Probably a lot of feces.
probably a lot of feces. And then he's like, man, I gotta go get some plastic surgery. My face is fucked up.
Yep.
And then, at least it made sense.
Yep, but in this fucking movie, it's just like, oh, we're trying to embark on this great quest to make sure humanity survives. Bro, we don't care about that. It's a giant fucking mutant snowman.
It's a fucking mutant snowman. You didn't think any of this through. Like, what were they going to do with any of the experiments, like, that they worked on? Like, even a lab rat that just gets, like, touched
We
with
haven't
that
even
shit.
we haven't even tested this on a protozoa.
Yeah. It hasn't even touched an amoeba.
Yeah.
It's just like, you guys are nerds.
But that was Jack Frost.
You know what's weird? The FBI guy also came up there on a mission to contain Jack Frost without his backup.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm going to go alone and, just see. No, I didn't decide, to take like a whole fucking team in case,
Well, not to mention the fucking the guy, the scientist. He could have at least filled him in on what was going to happen. Which, by the way, the only black guy in the movie dies in like 2 seconds.
Hey, at least he got some jokes in. Yeah. Most black guys in the 90s didn't live that long in a horror movie.
Yeah, it's true.
He got a full 5 minutes.
Yep. But that was Jack Frost, a really crazy fucking horror movie around the holidays. It's fun for the whole family. A really funny thing they used to do back in the day is they'd switch the Michael Keaton Jack Frost movie videotape with this one, and it was always a good time.
Always a good time. Not if you were like 5.
No, probably not. But yep, that was Jack Frost. Nick, you want to sign us off?
Yeah, stay sexy, Georgia, and Merry Christmas.
Thanks for checking out the Dumb Cool Weird podcast. We're a movie podcast now, so Movie Monday is every Monday about crappy movies from the 20th century. It's going to be great, folks. I can't wait to show y'all.